Sweet.
Yep.
Cool. Well, thanks everyone for being here for day 5, Friday. This has been, I think, a pretty packed week for all of us. So hopefully this has been useful for all of you and you're enjoying it. Today we're going to kind of wrap things up, and Sarah's going to talk about how to use Git and GitHub to build a free website for yourself that yeah, I mean, you can basically build things from the ground up. I think she'll talk a little bit about incorporating some of the products you might have made this week into your website and kind of create like a managed professional website for yourself as part of your grad or research work. So yeah, are there any questions before we get started? Comments? Cool. Well, Sarah, feel free to go ahead and take it from here.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I am just rearranging my screens. Okay, can you see the GitHub pages PowerPoint?
Yep.
Great. I'm just gonna organize my screen a little bit so I can see the chat. Okay, so thanks for sticking around until Friday, everyone. I'm pretty excited today. We're gonna make our own professional websites. It's gonna be laid out a little bit differently than the other days. I will kind of show you how to do a certain thing on your website, and then I'll give you like 10 or 15 minutes to do that to your website. So by the end of this workshop, you should have a complete functioning website. Oh, maybe I should introduce myself too. I'm Sarah. I am a PhD student in the Lab for Atmospheric Research. I study clouds in the polar regions, and I am primarily a Python programmer, but I've been helping with these workshops for a while, and I think this is a lot of fun. Okay. So welcome to GitHub Pages. First, we're going to review GitHub a little bit because I think that it's pretty intimidating at first. So we're going to go over those commands again. Then I'll talk more about what GitHub Pages are and why we might want to use this as opposed to like Squarespace or something like that. Then we'll talk about copying the template that we're using onto your account. And then we're going to have a quick break. And during this break, I encourage you to like locate a photo of yourself or your CV or resume so that during the second half of the workshop, when we're actually editing our website and putting in our publications and things like that, you'll be able to just reference that. Or maybe you know all those things off the top of your head, but I sure don't. So that might be helpful for you. So after the break, we'll go through how to edit it, how to edit our website to have exactly what we want. We'll add pages. We can remove pages, add images, and edit pages. So first, I'm going to go over a little bit of GitHub vocabulary that we might have heard throughout the week that maybe was a little unclear, and I'll be using some of this vocabulary today, and I'll remind you as it comes what it means. But generally, there are 3 different ways of taking a Git repository from the internet and making it your own. So the first one is a fork. And so this you would only do to your own website. No, a fork you do from somebody else's repository. I get these confused too. So, okay, we have somebody else's repository, and then to fork, what we would do is take a copy of that and it will be on our own account. And then in order to edit the original, you have to submit a pull request to the original owner. So don't be too wary about editing a forked repository. Next is a branch. And so a branch is a parallel version of a repository. That's what the GitHub vocabulary like website on GitHub says. And so I thought that this figure kind of showed a good way to think about it. So we have our code here as the master branch. So this is what we set up. And then at one point, we might say that we want a branch, which is what we're going to do today. And then what happens is we sort of have 2 working sets of code, but we don't necessarily have copies of the code. So the way that people usually would do this is if they were developing some sort of like function features in their code. So say we have a program here and we want to work on a feature, but we don't want to break the original code while we work on that feature. We could fork it, work on the feature, and the original code would remain untouched. And then once our feature is the way we want it, we could push it back to the original. And then lastly, cloning is what we've done. That's just taking a copy of a repository that you see online and downloading it to your local. So in the clone case, your repository is not connected to the original anymore. But in the branch, everything is very connected and you're in control of everything. So this might not be clear at all right now. So I have created a HTML document in R Markdown that has not only an outline of what we're going to do today. So if you miss anything or if you want to go back and do anything, this is a good resource, but also it has terminology. So it also talks about what these are. And so I'm going to drop the link to this document in the chat. It's also in the Google Doc, but this is hosted on my GitHub website. And I encourage you to keep this open and follow along as we work today, because it might be convenient to copy and paste some of the commands or something like that. So next, I'm going to do a short summary of the major commands in Git that we're going to do. And so I just want to point out that we have this summary also in here. So we have cloning, pushing, which is uploading your work to your remote repository, and then pulling, which is updating your local copy, downloading. And so I have a slide for this. So I'll go back to here. So when we push, there are generally 3 commands that we go through. We'll first add the files that we've changed. We'll then commit them using the -m message command, and then we will push them. So this is what you've been doing throughout the week if you've been pushing. And then to pull from GitHub, we'll just say git pull origin master. And this isn't new from Monday. It's just a review because when I got started with GitHub, I needed to go through this like 10 times before I was fully comfortable with it. Okay, I'm gonna pause for a second and take a sip of coffee. Okay, so what are GitHub pages and why would we use this instead of like any other hosting service online? Well, GitHub Pages is free, which is a huge benefit to it over some of the other hosting platforms. And it's also very easily personalized. So if you have a lot of coding knowledge for like HTML and websites, you can make a wild website. You can do whatever you want with it. But if you don't know any coding, it's very easy to grab somebody else's pre-made code from the internet and edit it and make it your own. So that's kind of a little bit of a difference from some of the other hosting platforms, I think. It also, version control is a huge advantage of this. This is something that we saw Monday with GitHub for our code, but it also applies to our website. We'll have past versions of our website saved in Git just as we did with the code. And then lastly, you can collaborate easily. So GitHub is set up so that you can collaborate very easily and more than one person can edit a repository. And so you could do the same with a website. If you had a project website that more than one person had to edit or make contributions to. So it works by using Jekyll to convert Markdown to HTML. So you don't need to know any HTML. We just will write Markdown just like we did on Tuesday. And everything in the template will format it the way we want to. Whoops. Oh my goodness. Okay. And so lastly, it will be constructed using a GitHub Pages branch. So like I just talked about with branching, we're gonna create our first branch and it's gonna be a GitHub Pages branch. And that is what's gonna tell GitHub to publish this as a website. So now I wanna show you the template that we're gonna be editing. If you want to click around, I'm going to drop this link in the chat, but it's also in that HTML document. But I'm going to go through everything in this template. So this is our homepage. When you go to your website, it will land you here, and it has some information about using the template, but we aren't going to read through this right now. You can on your own, but we'll pretty much walk you through what it's telling you to do. We also have this sidebar where we'll have our photo and then links to any sort of socials we might want. And then we have these pages up top here. So if we go to publications, we can see that there are 3 sort of placeholder publications already in this template. And if you click on the title, it will bring you to a new page about that. So the way that this is created is that each publication is its own file. And so the same goes for many of the other pages, and you'll see this when we get into the directory structure. So again, we have our talks and presentations, very similar to publications, except the like the description's a little bit different. But again, you can click on these and it will bring you to its own page. We also have teaching, which is a very similar setup. Portfolio is similar, but a little different because it's set up so that you can put a preview here. So if in your portfolio you created, say, an app or something like that, you could take a screenshot of it to show people kind of a preview and put it here. And again, these are clickable. So we then have a blog, and you see that it shows a future blog post here. This is something that we can turn off, but by default it's on. So that's just something to know, that future posts will be automatically posted and not scheduled. And then we have our other blog posts that we can click on and read more of. The coolest thing, in my opinion, about this website is the CV. So the CV we can edit up here, but down where we have our publications and our talks and teaching, it automatically compiles from those other parts of the website that we fill in. So we won't need to reiterate like our talks and things like that. It will know how to format them, which is pretty cool, I think. And then lastly, we have a guide, which is just some markdown information down here, and then a little more information about the layout. Okay. Gonna pause here for a second, and next we're gonna clone this to our own computer. Okay, so let's start the cloning process. So what I would like everyone to do, whoops, this Zoom bar in the way of my tabs. Okay. So we want the academic pages GitHub. So I want to go back to this document up to the top and click this. Oops, that brings me here. I'm going to navigate here, and then I'm going to drop this link in the chat so that you don't have to navigate here with me. Okay. So this page is in the chat, and I'm just going to give you a second to navigate there and click on it so that we're all here. Thanks for the green check, Phil. Yeah, and if other people could green check when they're here and ready to clone, that would be awesome. Great. Okay. That's encouraging. All right. So everybody's here. The first thing that we're going to do is click on this green code button and then copy this code or this URL. We want to make sure that we're clicking on the HTTPS thing here instead of SSH because we don't have SSH authentication set up yet. But note that you'll probably get an email that says that HTTPS authentication is going to be no longer accepted. So maybe read through that and I don't know, take note of what they're saying. I haven't read through it yet. I just know that soon I think you'll have to do SSH. Yeah, so can I go a step back? So all you have to do to get here is click on the link in the chat and that will bring you to this page. And then this green code button, we're just going to click HTTPS and that's it. We'll just copy that. So then the next step is going to be to open a terminal. So if you're on Mac, you can just use your regular terminal. I'll leave that there so you see where to copy that. So if you're on Mac, you'll use a regular terminal. If you're on Windows, then you will have, they needed to download something. Is that right? What's the Windows thing for this?
It's Git Bash.
Git Bash. Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Matt. So you'll want to open that and we'll type git clone, and then we're just going to paste that website there. And I'm not going to hit enter quite yet to make sure that you can catch up to here. But yeah, git clone and then the URL.
Sarah, could you remind people how to get to the folder location that they want to clone into?
Oh, yes, that's a good point. Okay, so I'll delete this. If we want to know where we are in a terminal, we can type pwd, which stands for print working directory. And so I see that I am in user/Sarah Murphy or S Murphy. And so this is where I want my local copy of my website to live. If you want it to live somewhere else, you can change your directory here by typing cd, which is change directory, and then navigating to wherever you want. So let's say I want to do this in documents. I can type cd documents because I'm in the documents folder, or documents is a folder in the repository I'm in. So then that's how you can change your directory. So take note of that because that is where your local version of your website is going to live. And when we add a photo, that is kind of important to know. So that's a good point. Thanks, Matt. So I am just going to go back a step. So I'm going to do cd ... which just brings me outside of that repository into the, or outside of that directory into the one that it's in. And then I'm going to do git clone and print and paste that in there. And then I'm going to hit enter and you'll see some feedback like this. And then eventually you'll have nothing. So I'm going to pause here and make sure that everybody can download their repository or this repository. But before I do that, I want to show you how to make sure that it's downloaded. So to make sure that it's downloaded, you can just type ls and that will list everything in that repository. And you can see that we have academic pages here. And so I'm going to pause and please put up your green check when you have the repository cloned. And if you need help, don't hesitate to ask the helpers, because this is the most important part. And if we don't get our website on our account, then the second half is going to be not so fun. Okay, I think that I had some green checks go away, so I think we're good. Do the helpers agree that people seem to? I see Michael going like this. Maybe wait another second. Okay.
I think you would be good, sir.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Okay, so our next step is going to be renaming this, so it's no longer academic pages. And I'm just going to take a step back and look at this PowerPoint again to show you the naming conventions. Okay, so this has to do with the way that you want your website to be displayed. So, well, not necessarily the URL that you have to type in to get to the website. So if you want to type in your username.github.io, and that will bring you to your website, your repository name is going to want to be username.github.io. So don't do anything with that information yet. Just sit with it and we'll do something with that in a second. And so if you don't want a user site, if you want a project site, so like say you wanted to make a website for just one of your projects, then you would have your username.github.io/ the repository name to get to that to get to your website. And so in this case, the repository name is what you would want your folder to be named. I'm going to be making this one the user site, and I encourage you all to do the same because that's what this template is made for. But I have the information about the project site naming convention in the document if in the future you want to create a project site. You can use that. Okay, I'm going to go back to the terminal. And this is also in the document. So if I'm moving this too quickly, you can look at this. Someone said they're not sure if the folder is properly cloned. Yeah, you can type ls and you'll see everything in your directory, and then you should see that folder. Thanks, Becca. Okay, I want my terminal back. So now to rename this repository, and we type ls again, and we can see all of these things, and you'll see academicpages.github.io here. So now if we want to move this or rename it, we type mv, because we want to rename this to be our own website, academicpages.github.io, and then we're going to name it whatever we want our website name to be. So the mv command, it means move, but it's used for renaming too, because it's moving this file under this name to be this file under another name, I think is how you can think about it, but it's essentially renaming. So I'm doing mv academicpages.github.io, and then I want to name it my username.github.io. So I already have my own personal website, so I am going to be making a website for my cat. And so my cat's username is Flame the Cat. So I'm going to type that .github.io. And so this is just naming that folder from academicpages.github.io to flamethecat.github.io. And I'm going to hit enter, and you won't get any. Someone asked, does this need to be your GitHub username? Yes. Yeah, it should be your GitHub username. Because that's how GitHub will see that. GitHub recognizes that when you have a repository named .github.io, it's supposed to be a GitHub Pages thing. So it should be your username. If it's not your username, then it would end up being a project site. And you would have to go to this URL for it. So when you have renamed your repository, put up a green check. Okay. So the next thing we'll do is we're going to change directories, and we're going to go into this directory. So to do that, we're going to type cd, and then we're going to go to flame the cat, or whatever your GitHub username is, .github.io. And hit enter, and we should be in this new directory. So once we're in this new directory, the next thing we're going to want to do is remove the .git folder. And so what the .git folder is, it's the history of the website from the previous owner. So basically it is all of their Git history. So what we want to do to remove that is type rm, which means remove, and then -r, which is recursive, because this is a directory, we need to do that. And then type .git. So you might not see this folder in your repository because it has a period in front of it, but it's there and we need to remove it. So this is how we remove it, and we'll just hit enter, and it's going to ask you 2 questions. And you just say yes to both of those. And I'm just pausing for people to catch up. So once we've removed that .git folder, we're going to make a new one. And so to do this, we're going to type git init. So what this is doing is initializing this repository as our own and using the credentials that we have in the command line already from Monday. And so then you should get something like this: initialized empty git repository. Note that during all this, you do need to be in the repository of your of the template. So I'm going to pause here. Do we have questions about what we've done so far?
Is it acceptable to have the repository in a folder within like OneDrive, or will that screw things up?
I think that that's okay, because all of my repositories are within iCloud and I have never had any issues. And I think iCloud is set up similarly to OneDrive. If somebody else has experience with OneDrive and repositories, then maybe they can hop in and give some information. But my gut feeling says it shouldn't mess with it.
Yeah, I think in my experience, it does work. The one issue that I ran into when I was trying to do that is that the folder location for OneDrive can kind of, like the file path can have a strange name. And so that was difficult for me to find. Like I remember I I think, locate it once and then save it in a text file, so I knew how to get back to it, because it uses like a weird sort of like signature or whatever. So that's the only thing that I would say to be wary of, is being able to actually find it on the command line.
That's a good point. Thanks, Matt. Does anyone have any other questions about this? Okay, I am gonna move on then, and we are going to now do the GitHub side of things. So you should navigate to github.com. And yes, we'll pause here for a second. Your home landing page might look a little different than this, but generally we want to be here. So once we've navigated to this page, we're going to create a repository. So we're going to click new up here, or you can click the plus up here. Those are the two ways. So I'm just going to click new repository, and it'll bring me to this, this page. And so we did this Monday with Nick, but we're not going to pick the same options that we did with Nick, because that will initialize our repository incorrectly for a website. So when you are on this page, put up your green check mark. Awesome. Great, that's everybody. Okay, so now we want to name our repository. Now you want to name this exactly what you named the folder. So I'm going to name this flamethecat.github.io. And so you want to do the same thing, your username.github.io. And we can add a description. And we want to make sure that we leave everything else the default, or if your default is not this, change it so that none of these are checked off and that it's a public repository. I think that if it's a private repository, you might need a pro account to actually publish a website, which is why we're making sure that it's public. Could be wrong about that, but last time I did this talk, I feel like that was the case. And then we don't want to do any of these because we have a README already in the template. The git ignore is also housed in the files we already have. And we don't want a license. This isn't our code to license. So once you've entered in your repository name and made sure that everything is checked correctly, and if you forget about this, there's a screenshot of the correct settings in that document. You can just click create repository. And we'll end up on this page, and don't do any of these things that it's telling us to do. We're going to do something a little bit differently. So we want to make sure we have HTTPS selected here. And then we're going to highlight this just as we did before and copy it. So now, once we've copied that, we're going to go back to our terminal. And then we are going to basically do our first push. So we're going to say git add period. And so that should add everything into our ready to be committed area. Then we can type git commit -m, and I'm just going to say first website commit. And I did something wrong. Oh, the exclamation point. It doesn't like that, does it? Okay, git commit. My goodness. First. Okay, so I just typed, that was a little fast and I'm sorry about that. I typed git commit -m and then first website commit. And so we did get this big list of files, and that's because we have a ton of files that have not yet been committed because we have this whole repository we just copied. So the next thing we do is the thing that's a little bit different than what we've been doing and from what the website says. So what we want to next do is create a branch. And so to do that, we're going to say git branch -m master space and jh pages. And I'll leave that up for a minute so that you can really see that. And so we want to make sure that what this is doing is it's creating a new branch from the master branch, and it's calling it GitHub pages. And it needs to do this because GitHub will automatically take a branch called GitHub pages and process it as a GitHub pages website, and it will do some of the settings changes for you to make a GitHub pages account. If you don't do this, there are still ways to publish your account, but this is the easiest way. So I'm going to hit enter, and we get no feedback, which is a good thing. So I'm next going to say git remote add origin, and then I'm going to paste that site URL from the HTTPS that we just saw. And then we'll hit enter. And again, we won't get any feedback. So if we want to make sure that this is correct, we can type git remote /v. And so when we type git remote -v, we get this. And so these are the URLs that we're using for both fetch and push. So these are the URLs we're looking for downloading and pushing to. They're both named origin, and they're both this URL, which is exactly what I want it to be. And lastly, we're going to push it. So then we're going to say git push -u origin gh pages. And so this is something that's a little different. When we push a GitHub pages when we're pushing a repository that's GitHub pages, we want to make sure that we're using gh pages instead of master. Typically, we would say git push origin master. Right now, we're doing git push origin gh pages. So I'm going to run that. And you might get an error here. And so this is where I anticipate the most errors, because if you don't have your GitHub authenticating correctly in your command line, you might have some issues. So I'm going to pause here, and I am going to ask for questions, or if you're having issues, let us know, and we'll make sure that this is going well. If you want to check that it's been done correctly, you can just go back to your repository and refresh it, and you should see all of your files. So I'm going to pause and let me know if you have issues or if you need me to go over any of those commands again. They are all in that document as well. Okay, so I'm not seeing any questions. Oh, there is one issue. Some of these commands don't work for bash. Does the helper want to figure out why that might be the case? Thank you. Okay, and we're gonna have a break in a second. I just want to show you guys a few more things. So if that doesn't work, then we can troubleshoot a little deeper during the break too. Okay, so when we go here, we can check if our website is published by clicking on the settings. And then once we're in settings, we can scroll down and there will be a GH pages heading. And you'll see it will either say your site is published, or it might say that your site is ready to be published. If it says it's ready to be published, that's fine. Sometimes it takes a couple minutes for GitHub to actually publish the changes. So don't panic if it doesn't say your site's published yet. That is totally normal and a good sign. And so you should be able to click on that link and you'll see the template with no customizations, just as we saw it when we were going through it. So I'm going to go back to that page I was just on, if I can find it. So put up a green check if you can navigate to here and you see that your site is either published or it's ready to be published. Awesome. So it seems like there are only a couple people that don't have that. And so we can troubleshoot that in a few minutes during the break. The next thing I want to show just really quick is how you might do this if you didn't want to have a local copy. I wouldn't follow along. You don't need to select anything in settings just to reply to the chat thing. You're just going to the GitHub pages section and seeing if it says your site is published. It should have published automatically, so you shouldn't need to change anything for it to say this. But if it doesn't say it's published or it is ready to be published, then something might have gone wrong and we can figure out what that issue is. Okay, so I am just going to go back to our template. I'm just going to click on it from the chat. And so don't follow what I'm doing now, but I'm just showing you this for some background information, I guess. So if you didn't want a local version of your repository, what you could do is click this fork button and it would fork your repository. So it would take a copy of this repository and put it on your own account. And then you can edit it and you would need to go either add a branch here that says GH pages, or you would need to change in those settings to say that you want it to publish the master branch. So that's just some information for you that if you want to edit entirely online, you can do that, but there are a couple other settings that need to be tweaked. So I think we should take like a 5 or 10 minute break now. If you have issues, you can stick around and let us know, or questions or anything like that. But let's say be back at 9:25. That's about a 7-ish minute break. And then we'll start actually editing our website. We're just going to pause for a little bit longer to make sure that everybody is caught up so we can all edit together. So stand by. Okay, so I think I'm gonna get started again. I know there are a couple people that are having some issues, so we're gonna try and get that sorted out. Some of the helpers will help, but I'm gonna move on just for the sake of time. So the first thing that I'm going to do is go over the files that we have in this directory a little bit. And so there's also an outline of what these files do in that HTML document. There's also a copy of that HTML document in the Google Docs. So if you want to download that in the Google Drive, you can download that and have that for your own reference later. Okay. So if we look through this, we see that there are a lot of files and folders, and maybe this could be a little intimidating. So if you look at the markdown, the GitHub Pages markdown page that I sent you all there, or that I pasted into the chat, you'll see that some directories are bolded. And so those are the ones that we'll be editing. So just to go through this, data is some of the background information about your website. Drafts is where blog drafts will live. So if you're making blog posts and you don't want them to post, you can put them in drafts. Includes and layouts are both have to do with the layout itself. So I wouldn't edit these unless you have a good handle on HTML or are feeling adventurous someday. And then, so pages is the directory where all of the HTML pages that generate the pages on your website are housed in this pages file. And also if a page is a single page, for example, like your home page doesn't have any subpages, it will be a markdown file in the pages directory. Then portfolio, posts, publications, talks, and teaching are just the folders that house the individual files for those pages. This is website S or CSS. So this is like some font things. The next important directories you want are files and images. So if you want to upload files to your website, it would be good organization to put them in this files folder. And then images you'll put in the images folder. And our website knows that our images are going to be in the images folder. So it automatically adds that path. So it will be good to add images into this for organization and because the layout knows that. Then lastly, we have these two things. These go with a talk map that is part of the this layout. And so we won't be doing the talk map now. It's a Python script that's within this that creates a map so that you can see everywhere you've given a talk. But it's had some bugs in the past, so we're not going to mess with that because I don't want to have to teach Python right now. But so we won't deal with that. So then we have a bunch of these files down here. We have a change log, which shows all of the changes that have been made to this. But the most important thing down here is this config.yaml file. So everyone will have this. So we should just click on this file. So you'll end up on a page that looks like this. And so we are going to start by editing this page first. And so we are going to hit this. I'm on academic pages, not my own repository. So I'm just going to go to my own repository, so I know I'm on mine because I have flamethecat/flamethecat.github.io. And so when I'm here, I'm going to scroll down to the config.yaml file. And then I'm going to hit this, this pencil. And so what this pencil does is it opens up like a text editor basically within GitHub and allows you to edit your files. So I'm going to click that and then we will end up here. So I am going to open up our, I'm going to open this in a window right next to this so I can show you what the things do as we edit them, but you don't need to do this. This is just for demonstration purposes. But you should definitely open up this because we're going to edit this together. So the first section we're going to edit are site settings. So first we have our location, and then we have our title / our name. And so this field edits up here. So I'm going to type my name and site title, and I encourage you to do the same, but I'm going to pause after so that you can edit this code block if you don't want to do that along with me. So I'm going to say flame/housecat. Next, we need to enter in our name. So you notice that name and description have this ampersand and then name. So that is because certain places on your website have this like name and description tag. And so it'll put these in. For example, if we scroll down to the bottom of this, we can see it says 2019 your name. So if we put our name here, when we update it, it will say 2019 your name, your actual name. So I'm going to write Flame Murphy because that's the cat's name. And then I'm just going to write a little description here. Next, we want to edit this URL field. And we want to make sure that where it says academic pages, it says our username. So now if you were doing a project website, here you would need to put the / and then your repository name. But because we're doing we're doing a personal website, we can just put that. Then down here we have our repository, so we'll put our username here. And then we'll put our username again here, because that's the way we've set up our website. So now I'm just going to pause and let you guys edit these and put up a green check when you have edited these as you wish. And I'm going to make this, I don't know if I can make this text a little bit bigger. Here we go. Okay, so what we've edited are these site settings up to here. And don't do anything once you've edited them. Don't like save or anything. We're gonna edit a little bit more. So just stick here with your edits. Okay, so I think that we can move on and edit a little bit more of this now. So as we scroll down, we can see that there are a couple of, well, there are a lot more fields that we can edit. So for example, we could change how many words per minute we read. I don't know how many words per minute I read, so I'm just going to leave that at the default. And I'm just going to leave a lot of this at the default because some of it, I don't know what it means, but most of it, I trust what the default layout has. So I am going to scroll all the way down till I see this site author area. And so now we're going to edit the site author area. So this gives us the information on the sidebar. So when we're editing the site author area, we're editing what is shown here. So for my sidebar name, I'm just going to write Flame. Don't worry about the profile picture yet. We will upload a photo next. And so just leave that as it is. And then you can go on and edit all of this if you wish. So if you don't have something, like if you don't have an ORCID ID, Flame doesn't, you can just comment it out. Same with the Twitter handle or anything else you want. If you have one that doesn't already have a field written, you can just add quotes and type in the username. So for example, Flame does have an Instagram and his name is Fetching Flame. So you can just write it like that and it will put it in the URL when we push it. So I'm going to pause again for anybody who wants to, or I encourage you all to edit this section of your website. And if you have any questions, you can throw them in the chat or just unmute. And put up a green check once you are done editing the site author section. And don't go past the reading files because we'll go on together. And make sure to change the GitHub to be your own username, not academic pages. And just don't forget to put up a green check when you're done. Or if your green check faded, can you put it back up? Because when the green checks fade, I forget who already had it up. Awesome. So I'm just going to explain a little bit more about this document. If we scroll down, we can see that we have this reading files section, and we won't edit this, but I just want to point out that what this does is it picks out the files that you don't want to be published with your website. So if in the future you want to upload something here but you don't want it to be published, you can add it to this list and it won't publish it. If we keep scrolling down, we have markdown things. I would not edit any of this. And once we get to the bottom, we see that we've edited everything that we want to, and we can commit these changes. So I'm going to add a comment, and I'm going to say, put personal information into config.yaml. And then I'm going to commit these changes. Note that it says it's committing directly to the gh-pages branch, so you know that it is committing to your published site. So I'm going to commit those changes. when you are done editing, you can commit as well. And then you can refresh your page, make sure you're on your own. And you'll see the changes eventually. I just got a notification that my internet is unstable. I'm sorry if I am choppy because of that. But right now I am just waiting to see these changes on my website. And so, like I said, it might take a while for us to actually actively see those changes because GitHub is not update online on your published website. Some days I don't know what the pattern is there, but we see that it did update. I'm going to turn off my video, hoping that it helps with connection. And let me know if my connection is like very bad. But eventually you should be able to see that you have your updated sidebar. And you should see that you have these links and they are clickable. You should be able to actually go to these media. So my very slow internet will bring us to Flame's Instagram. So we've published our first edits to this website. So the next thing that we want to do is edit the site author. So let's go back to our repository here. And we're going to go under data. And so once you're under data, you'll notice that we only have a few files in here. We have our authors, navigation, and UI text. So we're going to edit the authors and navigation. First, we're going to edit the authors. So I'm just going to click on that file and then click on the pencil. And I'm just going to put my information here. And again, ignore this photo thing for now because we haven't uploaded any personal photos yet. So now I'm going to edit these, and I encourage you to also edit these. And I'm just going to comment out the second one. I don't have a second author. And so now when you finish editing your author page, put up your green check. And I'm just going to leave the things in here that Flame doesn't have. You can comment them out or delete them if you wish. And if you could just put up a green check when you're done with this. Okay, great. Pretty much everyone has completed this. So now we're just going to scroll down, add a comment, and commit these changes. Once we've committed the changes, we're just going to go back into this data directory and we're going to edit navigation. So once we're in the navigation.yaml file, we're just going to hit that pencil again. And so this is what controls what pages we see at the top of our website up here. So if we make this bigger, we see that we have this guide link. And so this guide link goes to this markdown page, but I don't want this on my personal website, and I'm sure you don't either, but we want to keep this information because it's good information. So what I'm going to do is remove that page from my navigation bar. So to do that, I am just going to delete this entry. And so that's going to remove that nav from that bar. If you say you don't want to have like a teaching page or whatever at this point, you can make those decisions. And if you want to remove any of these from your navigation, feel free to do so. I'm not going to remove any of them because we're going to go through each and show you how to edit them, but I know that maybe not everyone has all of these. So once you've removed your markdown from your navigation, we're just gonna commit that. And I'm gonna say removed .md page from nav. And then commit that.
Sarah, is there like a functional difference at all between committing on the website like this versus locally on your computer through like the command line?
There is, yes. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to pull these changes that we've made online and we're going to make a change locally and push that. So right now, what we're doing when we're pushing these or when we're committing these changes, they are just they're applying these changes to our internet repository. But our repository locally doesn't have these changes in it yet. So we're going to pull next and we're going to pull these changes down so that our repositories are in sync. So you'll notice though that when we do things on the website, we just commit. We don't need to do the add and the push thing because we're not uploading, but also because it's the website, we have less, we don't have that Git file that we're updating. So let's go into terminal and let's pull our changes. So I am still in this flamethecat.github.io directory. If you're not, navigate there now. And then we're going to type git pull origin gh-pages. And I'm going to pause for a second, but this is the command that we're going to type. So this is a little different than earlier in the week because we would have said git pull origin master, but because this is a GitHub Pages website, remember, we're only working with this GitHub Pages branch. So we're not working with the master branch. So we use GitHub Pages here. And I enter. And we see that we have pulled these changes. So I pulled the changes from the fig file, my authors file, and my navigation. So now we have two in sync directories for our website. So the next thing that we want to do is upload a profile photo. So I mentioned earlier that it might be nice to have a photo of yourself somewhere that you know where it is, and this is why. So I am not going to do this in the command line. I am going to drag and drop a photo of Flame into my repository. So hang on one second. I am. All right. So this is my Finder window. And we see that I have my folder flamethecat.github.io here. And I'm just going to go into that folder and I see all those files that we just had. And I am going to then get a new Finder, not a new folder. I want a new Finder window. And I'm just going to drag my flame photo into the images directory. So this is probably how you work on your computer when you're not doing like programming things, just drag and drop. So we'll be able to see in our images directory that we have added that image. Once we've added that image into this folder, we're going to push these changes. So we are effectively uploading this image to our website. So I'm going to go back to the terminal. And now I'm going to go through pushing. So I'm just going to git add period. And then I'm going to say git commit added a photo. So now I've added that photo of flame. And then I'm just going to say git push origin gh-pages. And we should get a status update like this. So I'm just going to pause for a second to give you a chance to catch up if you need that, that chance. But we just use these three commands here: git add period, git commit add, and then our message added a photo, and then git push origin master or origin gh-pages. And then once we've done that, if we want to make sure that we have uploaded correctly, we can just go to our GitHub website and navigate to that images folder. So once you have done this successfully, why don't we put up a green check mark? And I'll just show you what it looks like here too. Go into images and you should see added a photo. One thing I should mention is that if you have airdropped a photo from your iPhone and it's a live photo, whatever their format is, the .hi something something, it might not upload correctly or it might not display on your website correctly. So you want to make sure that you're not uploading that iPhone format. That's an issue I've had in the past. So you probably don't need to worry about it, but if you are if you have a live photo, you probably know.
Hey, Sarah, how do we deal with a two authentication password step when I go to push, it's asking me for my username and password, and I was stupid and went in and did the two forms of authentication during the break. So now I can't push my changes.
Okay. I'm not positive how to deal with that. Maybe a helper knows better how to deal with the two-factor authentication.
Yeah, if you have like an error message that you could throw in the chat, we can kind of take a look at that, I think, and whoever can race to an answer first can help you.
All right, thanks, Matt. Does anybody else have questions about this so far? All right. So,
Sarah, we actually
while-
do have one. Someone has had their page fail. Do you know what might cause something like that?
got an email saying page failed. So when did you get the email? Did you have any of your website published? So did you get the like template to publish?
I haven't checked the template to publish. It just says the page build failed for gh.pages. You have an error on line 83 of the config YML file. I think everything's okay. It's just I'm getting weird emails, like 3 of them.
Well, if it's telling you that there's an error in one of the lines of your config file, I would go back and make sure that your formatting matches the rest of your config file. I can open my config file again so that we can look at it, or you can go to this directory and look at it yourself. But if we scroll down here, it's down in this area that you've edited. That's where your error is going to be. So my guess is that maybe your quotations don't match or something like that. So I would go through and make sure that this is formatted correctly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so you might get emails, or you probably will get some emails. If you have any sort of error, they'll email you, but also you'll get emails about the depreciation of the HTTPS thing. So you will get emails from this overall. So we've seen now how we can edit our website online and from the terminal. So we can edit it by editing these pages or these files locally and then pushing these changes, just like we did when we added our photo. We pushed those changes. I am going to continue to edit online just for the ease of this interface. It looks nice, and it's a little less keystrokes, but you can do whichever you want. While we're editing online during breaks, I'm going to pull my changes back down so that I keep a local version that's up to date.
Hey, Sarah, could I request that you show one of the pages on your GitHub real quick?
Yeah.
So with regards to the people who are getting like build fails, for example, I think, so if you go to your commits page for this repository, it will show like a red X, I believe, next to commits that have failed. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, I would agree with that. It will say, yeah, it will tell you what commits failed.
Yeah, so could you show us your commits and the fact where it says like, yeah, so those green checks mean it was successful, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, so if you're one of the people getting the errors about fails, you might check there, and then I think it should show you which commit was the first one that had a problem, and you can go back and look for typos in like your config file that you made during that commit. Do you agree, Sarah? Am I getting this right?
Yeah, I agree with that. I also see a question in the chat about the hashtag or the pound symbol versus quotes. So the pound symbol is commenting things out. So so for example, Flame didn't have an ORCID ID, so I put that pound symbol ahead of it to comment it out so that it wouldn't read anything. So the hashtag is also like deleting it. If you use quotes around it, that is for something that you actually want to enter. So I'm going to go back to this config so that we can talk about this a little bit more. I'm just going to go back to editing it, and I'm going to scroll down to this area. So yeah, you notice that we have both these pound symbols and then ones that don't have the pound symbol. So I just added this pound symbol in front of the ones that I essentially wanted blank. So what this is saying is don't read anything on this line after this pound symbol when you're processing this page. So this is the same as me just doing this. Anything that you enter in here does need to be in quotes. So if you didn't put it in quotes, that is very likely why you're having an error. So while we're in this config YAML file, let's add our profile photo. So navigate to the config YAML file that we have been, we worked with before, and then scroll down to the site author section, and we're going to edit this field. So all you need to do is put the name of your photo here. So I know that my photo is named Flame, but I don't remember if it's a PNG. So I'm just going to go back and look at my directory structure here. And I see that it's a JPEG, so I'm just going to change that here. So I'm going to say flame.jpg. So just put whatever your the name of your photo file is here. You don't need to put images in front of it because it knows that it's going to live in the images folder. And so this is line 84. So I'm going to push these changes now so that it will start updating, but it's okay if you are not completely done editing that yet. So I'm just going to commit those changes and then scroll back down to where we edited while we wait for the updates. One thing that's pretty cool about the profile picture on this website is this circle will become more of an oval if you add in a photo that's different dimensions. So don't feel like you need like a square photo. If you upload something that is in like landscape or portrait orientation, it will just make an oval. And so once you push those changes, you should see your photo show up here. So I am going to pause here and maybe put up a red check if you have your photo and you're ready to start editing these pages, or not a red check, a green check. And if you need me to go back to anything, let me know and I can definitely do that.
Flame looks so tall with that oval format.
He does. He's pretty tall. So I want to check in. How many people are getting build errors still? If you're getting a build error still, put a red X instead of the green check. So I see we still have one person with build errors. If a helper could try and fix that. And yeah, don't forget to just put up your green check when you're ready to edit more pages. Okay, so I think I'm gonna start editing one of the pages now. We are first gonna edit our publications page. So did I save this? Yeah, I must have. All right. So I am gonna go back to my main directory. And then I am going to go under publications. So you see that under publications, I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger, we have a number of different files, and each of our different pages are set up like this. We have a number of different files. So these are like our sub pages essentially, but it's also where the page is grabbing information. So for example, we'll click on one of these placeholder pages. I've clicked on number 1. And then let's hit this edit this file pencil so that we can just see what the code looks like. So we see that we have this area up here that's our YAML header. And so this shouldn't be too new of a concept to you because we did something pretty similar when we had our markdown. But some of the things within it are different. So each of these placeholder papers has the same layout. And so you can go through and just edit your paper title, collection, permalink, an excerpt, the date, the journal, and things like this. here you can put the URL to your paper. So this is a good example of somebody using the files directory. They uploaded their PDF paper to files and put it in here. You could also put a URL to, like, if there's a web page out there that houses your paper, you could also put that URL here. One thing to note is that this permalink, this is where somebody will go, like what they'll type into this page. So you'll want to edit this to reflect your paper. And then this is how you would like it to be cited. So I'm going to go through and edit this, and I encourage you to also edit this with maybe your CV or resume if you have that by, and then can you put up a green check when you are done with the publications page? Just note that you'll want to keep collections to say publications, because this is where you're telling it that this uses the publications layout and that it will be part of this publications page. And don't write what I'm writing, write your own information. I'm just doing this for like demo purposes. But yeah, you should use your own paper title and such. Don't put best bird watching places.
Hey Sarah, quick question from me here. Can you remind me how the reference for the profile photo is built? So is it like you upload your profile photo and then does the config.yaml page like look for a specific file path for that?
So the config.yaml page is looking in the images directory.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is by default looking for, I think it's called like profile photo or something, photo.png, whatever the default like photo name is. So when we change the photo name, so it knows what directory to look in for that photo, and then the field that says like avatar equals whatever, that's where you would put in the name of the file.
Okay, there we go. Okay, thank you.
No problem. So underneath this YAML header, we have some text. So you can put whatever you want down here. This is what's going to show up when somebody clicks on that and pulls up. So you could put in like major findings of this paper are, and then have a list like a summary of your findings for your paper. So these are just the best bird watching places in my apartment, but hopefully you would put something a little more meaningful. And then one last thing, once you have edited this entire file, make sure to change the file name up here to have the appropriate date and paper title. And when you are ready for, you're ready for this page to be published, put up a check mark. I see in the chat we have a question, the difference between the permalink and the paper URL. So the permalink is what is going to bring you to this page, whereas the paper URL is just going to bring you to a PDF of your paper. So this, you would need to upload this file. And then there is a link. So I'll show you, if we go to publications, I haven't pushed, so you don't see any of my edits, but when the permalink is the link that when you click this title, that brings you to the permalink location, which is essentially this stuff. Versus the paper URL will bring you to a page with the paper. So I hope that clears that up. And so the other markdown pages in this are made the exact same way in the publications folder. They're all the same exact as this. So you can add as many publications as you want with this same format. We're only going to give time to add one publication right now so that we can get to the other pages. But this is how you would add your publication. So you might think that you don't I don't have any publications right now, so I don't want any of these pages. So say you just delete these markdown files, and then when you finally do publish, you think, oh no, I don't have these layouts anymore. I don't know what my YAML header should be. How would I format this? So what you can do is just go to the academic pages GitHub, and you'll be able to see the source code there, and you can just copy and paste these formats and these templates already filled in. So you can always get back these things if you accidentally or purposefully delete all of these placeholder files. So I'm going to push this. I'm going to commit these changes, not push, just commit. So added paper 1. And so this will automatically be added to both the papers page and the CV page. So if we go to our publications, eventually it will show up here, and then it will also show up in our CV. Refresh it real quick to see if it comes up yet. I'm not going to wait for it to come up, but it will eventually. So the way that this page is generated, I'm just going to show you the HTML file really quick so that you have a little more background information about how it's created. So if we go into the pages directory, we'll see that there are a bunch of different pages here, but we see we have our publication. So we can click on this, and we see some code here and a header. So we won't edit this ever, but this is the code that generates your publications page. So that's sort of how the page generation works. And then we also have the talks HTML, which gives a little bit more information. What did we just edit? Publications? Yeah, we didn't edit talks yet. So the publications one, that talks HTML file is what deals with this page. So let's see if our paper has published yet. Sure. Oh, yes, it has. Okay, here it is. It's because it's automatically put in order by date. That was why I was a little messed up with that. So I put it in 2015. So we see that it formatted this published in Journal of Cats. I only put Journal of Cats and then 2015. And then when we click on it, it gives us the body of that markdown file. So we see that I have this list of major findings. And then we can click CV and see that it's also been put in here. So that's pretty cool. I think it is, at least. So the next one we're going to edit is our talks folder. So let's go back to our GitHub repo. What happened? Oh, it was too skinny. Okay. So now we're going to go to talks. And we're going to edit these the same way we did before. We'll just click on one of the templates, hit the edit this file button, and then add in our talks. And so I'm going to pause here and let you all edit this. They have similar fields, but some are a little bit different. So like we have venue and location. These are specific to talks and workshops. You wouldn't have this for publications. So it uses different tags here. And then just to note, when you're adding things into the body of these pages, you can use any sort of markdown that we have learned already. So we could do headers, subheaders. Wow. And then code if we want to. The code won't run, but it will display as code. So you can edit your talks page and give me a green check mark when we're ready to move on from the talks page. So I've added some information here and I'm going to commit this. So I'll talk wrong. that's okay. And so that'll come up under talks and presentations. So, yeah, so why don't we put up a poll in the shared doc for pacing, and then if we want a break. We're gonna edit, to give you guys a roadmap of what's next, we'll edit our portfolio, blog posts, and CV, and then we'll add an HTML document to our website and the homepage. So if one of the helpers could throw that into the document. Which I have open here. And here is the document URL if you all don't have it. All right, so yeah, Matt has up, how's the pacing and do you want a break? I like the break options, now, soon, and not that soon.
Sorry.
No, I love it. Okay, I see a few people want to break now. So let's take a quick 5 to 10 minute break. And if anyone has issues, we can try and get those sorted out during the break. If you have questions, you can throw them in the chat and I will try and answer as best I can. So let's come back together at, what do we think? 10:40 or 10:45? Matt, what do you think about timing?
Let's do 10:45. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, let's come back together at 10:45 and we will finish editing our websites. Oops, didn't mean to screen share that.
It's fine. I don't know if anybody else ran into that, so.
Yeah, so just to kind of talk about what the issue is there is make sure that you have the .md at the end of the file name, or else you won't, it won't process the file correctly.
Thank you.
Here's a flame break. The star of the day.
I gotta click on your screen so I can see him.
Oh, I'll stop sharing so that I can see
Oh,
the beautiful boy.
so cute. Aw. He's like, what are you doing?
Like almost putting up with it.
I wonder if I can get him to stay. Can you stay? He's not leaving.
You have an impressive plant collection there.
Thank you. It was larger in the summer. I've had quite a few deaths this winter, but
Yeah, me too.
yeah, thanks. Becca, did you see Flame when he made an appearance?
No, I missed it.
He's still here.
Ah, look at him. He's grown since the last one. Such a
I
cutie.
know, he's so long.
You've also accumulated houseplants, I think.
Yeah, it's an accumulation. That's a good word
good.
for it. Yeah.
I'm glad that I got to see Flame
Something-
today, at least. That was what I was looking forward to.
I'm sure he'll make another appearance soon. Okay, so I think I'm going to get started again if everyone is ready. I have to reshare my screen. Okay. All right, can everyone see that? Okay, perfect. Okay, so we did talks last. So now we're going to work on our portfolio page. So when we click on the preview of the portfolio, I just realized I don't have the chat up to keep that up. Okay. We see that they have a place for us to add an image, and I talked about that a little earlier, and I'll show you how to do that. But then we also have, again, these subpages. So to get into our portfolio, we're going to go back to our home directory, and then we're just going to click on portfolio. And so you'll notice that there are two different files here, and one is a markdown file and one is an HTML file. So you can create files within your portfolio in either markdown or HTML. Note that this does not work for the other pages. This is just the portfolio page. And if you don't know HTML, that's fine. You don't need to make an HTML page. But we'll just look at it quickly because we haven't looked at an HTML page yet. Just going to edit this. And it's pretty much the same layout as our markdown pages. We have the YAML header, and then we have the body of what would be on the page. So this is the same thing as what we see also in the markdown one. The one thing different from this, or with this versus the other templates, is that they have this image tag within the excerpt area. And so this is what directs us to that placeholder image they had. So if I go back here, this image here, that is this. So if I wanted to put a picture, like a screenshot of an app I made or anything like that, I would put it into my images repository or directory, just like we did with our profile photo, and then put the name here. If you don't want to have any photo previews, you can remove this part, this image tag, and then it will just make this go away. So I am gonna pause. So if you want to play with the portfolio page, you can. I just wanted to open this up to show that the markdown pages are exactly the same as the HTML pages. One thing I want to note about the HTML pages is that you can't upload like an HTML page that has been created by our Markdown into your portfolio folder and expect it to just like format like this. That's not what this means when I say you can upload HTML files to this. I just mean use HTML in the body of the text. Now, if you did want to upload an HTML file, I'll show you how to do that so that we can link to it maybe, or however you want to use it. So say I am going to upload an HTML file that we can use for our portfolio. I am going to put it under the files directory. So I'm just going to navigate to the files directory, and I'm just going to upload through this interface. So I'm just going to click upload files and choose my files. I am going to upload the this GitHub pages HTML file. This is just the HTML file that you all have. And so I'm just going to upload that. We'll see that it's going to take a minute to upload. And while this is uploading, feel free to edit your portfolio page. So we see that this has successfully uploaded, and I'm just going to commit those changes. And if we click on our files directory, we see that we have this GitHub pages.html. So now this is now its own HTML page. And to get to it, we can go to our homepage. So that in our URL, we have our username.github.io. So then I'm going to do /files/GitHub pages.html. My goodness. Okay. And then I hit enter, and this is that page that I just uploaded. This is that HTML file. So you notice that it doesn't have the same format as our website. And this is because this is it's in the files directory, and it doesn't have the same YAML header type of information as the rest of our website. So the way, if you wanted to link to an R Markdown page like this, the way that I would do it in my portfolio is I would go back to portfolio and then pick one of these pages, edit it, and then add a link to this page. So to do so, you can do this in Markdown or in HTML. I'm just going to do it in Markdown. So I'm going to say GitHub pages HTML document. And then in parentheses, I'm just going to put the URL. So I know the URL is my playingthecat.github.io/files because that is the directory that I put it into, and then /GitHub pages.html. You might think, why can't I just put this in the directory of portfolio? Then wouldn't you just type /portfolio/GitHub pages.html? But you're wrong. I tried to do that because I feel like I felt like that should work, but it doesn't, because it's not the portfolios folder is a smart folder, or smart folder is not what they call it, that's what I call it, but it's a folder that it knows the path to, and because it has this underscore, it knows that the things in this directory need to be parsed a certain way. So if you put your own files in there, it's not going to know how to process those. So that's why you should always upload your files to either the files directory or even the home directory is better than uploading them into one of your pages directories. So I'm just going to link to this HTML document. And then I'm just going to push this so that you can see, or I'm going to commit it so that you can see what this is like. And I'm going to say added link to HTML. I'm going to add a title so that we know what file to click onto. I'm going to say GitHub HTML file. And I'm going to commit these changes. So we notice in the preview here that it's already a link, so we know that we linked correctly. So I'm going to go back to my website. I'm going to go to portfolio, and then when this updates, I'll be able to click on whichever one says GitHub HTML file because that's what I've named it. And in the description, it will have this link, and then you can click on it to bring you up to this R Markdown file. So this is how I would incorporate R Markdown files into your website. I would make sure you're saving them as an HTML and then uploading them in this way.
Sarah, there was a question in the Google Doc. I think someone might have gotten lost along the way from going to uploading a file and then seeing it show up in the portfolio. I know you just wrapped that section. Could you just like kind of go through the overview, maybe click through it once?
Yeah. So I went through a little fast because that I didn't expect you to like follow along and also upload a document, but the way that I did it is I went through the upload process. So I went to files, and then I uploaded it using this add a file, upload new files button. So then I uploaded this GitHub pages.html document. And so this is a document that I made in R Markdown, just using basic Markdown commands. I'm not an expert in R Markdown, so this isn't really anything fancy. It's just the output HTML file. So I saved this under files so that it gets a web URL. So its URL is going to be flamethecat.github.io/files/your file name. And so then to add this to our portfolio, we can go back to our portfolio page here and make one of these pages about that project. So I made this portfolio1.md file about this project. So what I did was I just edited it and I changed the name. I can change this. I'll say an example of linking to a HTML document, not just okay. I'm going to leave this image here because I don't have any sort of image preview. And then I'm going to leave the collection portfolio because I want it to be part of the portfolio. And then this is just their placeholder text that I'm going to leave here. And then I added this link, and I added the link by putting these square brackets around what I wanted the text for the link to be, and then parentheses for the URL. And so again, I know this URL because I uploaded this document into my files directory. So that I can get there by typing in my URL to my website, going to my files directory, and then going to GitHub pages. So I'm going to recommit this, and then I'll show you what that looks like on the other side. And so if we go here, I hope that it, okay, so it is uploaded. So I can click on this heading that brings me to this page, which is the Markdown page that we can create here. So this is exactly what we see here. And then we have this link. And so this is the link we created down here. And when we click on it, it brings us to this page. So this isn't formatted like a regular GitHub pages. It's not formatted like the rest of your pages because of that YAML header and the way that it is converted into HTML. So I hope that clears that up a little bit. I know that it probably isn't super solid because maybe you don't have an HTML document to actually follow along and do those. But yeah, it's the same essentially workflow as adding the image and linking to the image in that YAML document. So do we have other questions about the portfolio?
I have one question about HTML, if that's okay.
Yeah.
About the Markdown exports. So in the past, I've been able to upload, and I think, yeah, I can't remember if you and I have both done this, but I know I've uploaded like a Markdown export, like you just did, like your pages, your document there that you've been using as an example. I just threw it into the main repository instead of putting it like inside of my files, and it showed up as a web page. Is that like, are you supposed to be able to do that? Is that something that's like a good practice, or does it not matter?
So you can do that, and I'm also guilty of doing that. On my website, I have a PDF CV, and it's in that main directory. So to get to it, you only have to type in sarahymurphy.github.io/CV. You can do that. That's fine, but I would, if you want to keep it like organized with all of your files together, I would put them in the files folder just for organization. But there's nothing stopping you from uploading to here and just having it be linked in your main.
Totally. Do you think like, is that a good way to, like, if you wanted to make like a page on your website specific to like a single project, that you could make it in Markdown like that and then upload it, for example?
So yeah, you could do it that way, but if you're going to make a new page, I would recommend doing it in this pages directory. But if you want a page that's kind of like a standalone that has your own formatting and you don't really want it to have any sort of connection to this website, yeah, you can just put it in this directory and link to it. So sometimes I do that if I want to show my advisor like a figure and I don't, for some reason, I want to give him a URL. Sometimes I do just like chuck it in this directory and then give him that URL. But maybe it's not the best organization.
Cool.
Yeah.
No, it made sense to me to try it, so I just wanted to check. So thanks for humoring me.
Yeah, no. I'm sure that that's something that many people will make use of. Does anybody else have questions about the portfolio page? Okay. So I'm not gonna give you any more time for the portfolio page, just because I feel like that could be quite in depth of a page for you to work on. But if you start working on it and you have issues, you're always welcome to email me and I can help you troubleshoot. So the next thing we're going to look at are our blog posts. So let's go, I'm here. So back to our main repository here, and I am going to click on posts. And so just like our other pages, each of our posts is a Markdown file. And so we can edit these just as we have been editing anything. So we can click on them, click on this pencil, and then edit it. One thing that's cool is the blog is set up to have tags, so you can add tags to your posts. All you have to do is add them in this list here. We have a permalink, which is the same as the permalink that we saw before. Our date, and then our title. So this says right now we see our future blog posts. And I said that earlier, if you wanted to turn that off in the config YAML file, you could set future to be false, or you could put your post that you do not yet want to be posted into the underscore drafts directory. And so the underscore drafts directory is the same as this, except it's not published to your blog. So yeah, you can edit that the same as you would edit anything else. You can delete these and do whatever you like. I'm not going to give you blog editing time because we don't have time in this workshop to write a whole blog. But the next thing we're going to do, I am going to give you time to fill out because we're going to work on our CV. So this is a little bit of a different page. You'll notice that we don't have one of these like underscore directories that leads to our CV. That's because it's a one-page page, so it doesn't really have subpages. Any linked pages are from other pages. So we don't need any new pages other than this main page. Could I say pages more in one sentence? Okay, so let's click on pages. And then we're going to want to go to cv.md. And so this is the markdown file that houses your CV. And then we're just going to click on this pencil, as we have in the past. So you'll notice here that we have a new tag in our YAML header, and it says redirect from. And so what this does is makes it so that if somebody types in flamethecat.github.io/resume, it'll bring them to the CV page. So if there's confusion with paths, you can add more paths here. So now when you go through and edit this page, be careful not to change, don't change this, and don't change anything in these sort of tags. Because what this is doing is this is the code telling your website to go into the publications folder and pull out each of your publications and format them and then put them in here. So that is what's kind of governing these sections where we have our links. So now I'm going to pause and give you a little while to update this. I would leave these headers and just sort of edit what they have in here and put your own like education and work experience. And don't forget that at the bottom, there's also service and leadership. So when you're done editing this page, put up a green check. And if you have questions, let me know. Everyone who was watching me just saw me not know how to spell that and then put a abbreviation. But yeah, I'm just editing this for Flame.
I'm enjoying the live editing.
Thank you. I did see that there was a question in the doc about seeing a live update. So everything that I'm seeing here, you should be able to do the same exact thing. All I'm doing is I have a copy of my website open in a browser and I'm just refreshing it whenever I commit the changes. So I'm not really seeing any sort of preview to these changes that I commit. I hope that answered the question. All you have to do is open a page to your website. I'm not rushing you, but when you're done, you can just commit your changes and then see them update. So I'm just going to go on and show you how to edit your homepage. And then if you're not done with your CV, you can come back and edit it then because this is the last page that we need to learn how to edit. So to edit our homepage, and by homepage, I mean this landing page when we go to our username.github.io. So right now we have a lot of this like junk about the website here. Maybe not junk, but information. And so we can go into pages and then about.md. This about.md file is the one that hosts this. So if we click on about.md and then click on our little pencil, we see that we have some redirects here. So if we also go to the about page, it will redirect us back to this home landing page. And then this is pretty similar to what we saw before. So what I would do when editing our home page is the first thing I would do is just go from line 10 all the way down to the bottom and just delete all of this so that you have a clean slate. And then you can put whatever you want here. You can put like a little summary of what your research is, some highlights, whatever you want here. And so this title is what goes here. And I believe it's also what's in this preview up here, where when you have that, I don't know if you can see that, where it says the description of my tab. So I think that also governs there. So you can edit this how you like. And so this is the last part of our website that I have to show you to edit. So we have about 45 minutes left. So I'm going to say that you guys can go and edit your pages. I kind of want to have this be more of like a free discussion time. If you have other things that you want to include on your website that I maybe haven't covered, you can ask and I can help you out. Otherwise, let's personalize. And let me know what questions you have. Yeah, and so Matt put in the chat, whenever you are finished with editing your website and whenever you're finished with this workshop, make sure you give us feedback. And also, I just want to note that that HTML file, again, is in the Google Docs or the Google Drive. So if you want to download that and have a copy for yourself, feel free to. It will also stay hosted on my website. So the Google Doc that we, like the collaborative document is what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Matt says should be up indefinitely, so.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
No problem. So just want to give you all my email. It's also on the document, but here it is also. So if you have any questions, like if you're editing your document and you find that you have some roadblocks, you can email me and I can look at your code and I'll try and help you get those sorted after the workshop.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. So I don't want to make anyone feel like they've got to go or anything like that. But before we lose people, I just want to thank you all for hanging out with us this week and learning with us. And I hope it's been very useful. Please do let us know if there's anything that you have questions about, any comments about it. And in a second, I'm going to drop into the chat here one more survey link, which is different than the ones we've been giving you each day. It's going to be like a post survey for the workshop. And we use this information to figure out which topics to do in the future, which topics people liked, and just sort of like things we can change. So if you would not mind filling this last one out, I'll also send an email out about it later today as a reminder, because yeah, and Michael says this also shows funding bodies that people like our workshops. So yeah, that's increasingly important. So yes, please do that, fill it out for us. And yeah, keep an eye out for future Serial workshops. I also would like to plug the R working group. Michael is the current person running that, and I help out with some of the stuff, and we have people come in once a week each semester, basically just like members of the working group, give little presentations or talks about topics they use, packages they use. We answer questions. It's kind of just like a community resource that we've had around for a few years. So yeah, but again, thank you all. This has been fantastic. I think it's gone really well, and it's really encouraging, and we look forward to working with you more. But yeah, please do hang out and do some more